Welcome to Lessons Learned, Trying to Make a Living, Living. My name is Omari Haribin, and about 8 years ago, I started this journey of trying to make a living, living. It sounded really crazy at the time. I didn't really know what that meant or how that would play out, but I just knew that I wanted to be able to live and create freely without the pressures of a job and having to go to work every day. And so my goal was to make $10,000 a month online. And this is early 2014. I had recently left my career as an engineer, and now I was on my own and I had to figure it out from scratch. And so I had this piece of paper up on my wall that said $10,000 a month. And that was, I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know how I was going to go about it, but I had this conviction that it was just a matter of time. And so a month passed and another month passed, and I had this goal for years and before finally hitting it. And I remember in the beginning telling myself that I would definitely, share what I learned, but I didn't think it was going to take as long as it took. And so as I went through more trials and failures, each time I knew that, well, the value of this thing is increasing because it's not as easy as I thought. And so whatever I've learned from this thing is definitely worth something, if anything, to the person I was at the beginning of this journey. So let's get into it. So about a month ago, I gave a talk at Squarespace, which is a website builder, on my experience selling Squarespace templates, so templates on their platform. And I gave this talk to an audience of designers and developers who, work with this platform every day and might be interested in doing the same thing. But the thing that stood out most from this presentation or resonated most with people were aspects of my story that I hadn't shared before, and weren't necessarily, specific to selling templates. And so something said to me, well, you need to give this talk again, but next time you got to do it for your own people. And so if you responded to my Facebook or Instagram post, then this is cooked up to order for you. Just like when you go to the Jamaican restaurant and you get the fish, you order a fish and then cook it to order. That's what this is right here. So you're going to get this and more. That's me a few years ago doing an ad for my website. So let's get into it. So once upon a time, and this story is broken down into 4 sections. There is the employee with the side hustle. There's the full-time creative freelancer. Then there's the other half of the story, which is the digital product and the affiliate marketer. And so moving through these different phases of, I guess, my entrepreneurial career, each phase taught me a different lesson and set me up for the next in a way that I couldn't have anticipated moving forward. But like Steve Jobs said one time in one of his things, like, when you look back, it always lines up a lot more than it looks like when you're going forward. So anyway, once upon a time, I started my career as a network engineer in Verizon. And I was in this leadership development program that moved me around. And I remember right out the gate, the first role that I was in, I learned four really valuable lessons that I'm about to share with you. And I didn't know how useful this would be until much later on when I actually codified it in reflection. I codified it. But the very first person I shadowed was this Jamaican dude named Conrad. And the department that I was in, they had this 24-month promotion schedule. So you hit these targets, and then in 24 months you get promoted. But Conrad had done it in 6 months, and I was going to be in this department already for 6 months. So Conrad became my new standard for what's possible in this department. And so I remember sitting with him that first day, and him breaking it down to me like, yeah man, you can do it. And I was like, yeah. There's something about possibility when it's coming from someone who speaks your language, who's coming from where you're coming from, and understands the kind of ethic that's needed. And so remember, I got that message of possibility, right? If it's possible for someone else like you, then it's possible for you. And so sometimes it's a matter of just connecting with those people. The second thing the second day I shadowed a guy, the older guy, he was probably about the same age I am now. And he talked really slow. And I remember his whole thing was like showing me the trends. He was like, yo, you got to be able to see the trends. If you could see the trends then. And so when I could see what he was talking about, what was once what was once a mess now became ordered and structured in my approach. So my third day now, these lessons came quick. Third day, I got some templates from a guy named Peter, and Peter was Jamaican too, it turns out. And so with Peter's templates, I was able to get a leg up. I didn't have to start from scratch every time I had a problem. I could follow his template and customize it, make it my own, which led to the fourth lesson that I learned in that first round, which was to automate my process. So eventually I took what I learned from these guys, I applied it, and I realized that if I came into work every day, I had a script that I wrote, a little automation script that allowed me to see the trends, apply my template, and hit my targets like Conrad has shown me. And so out the gate, I knew that was a framework that somehow I would be able to leverage later on. And so as I moved through the company, I started to experience a feeling of like being comfortably uncomfortable. I was used to this progression. I was used to like being in some type of an accelerated program. But I was also used to this discomfort of being the only one. And so luckily though, I always have my thing on the side, right? So on the side, I'm doing these videos, I'm shooting videos, I'm doing some photography. I'm renting out a studio to do photography there. And this is desperately what I want to be doing all the time, every day. But I just don't know how to leave this world that I'm in. I spent so much time in school working towards it. As far as like salaries go, it's pretty good for where I'm at coming out of school. And so I'm terribly afraid of leaving this thing right here. But secretly, I'm hoping on the side that like, what I'm doing, maybe I'll get discovered or something will pop off or I'll blow up somehow. And, that's what I'm putting all of my eggs in, is just this silent hope for this type of thing. When I get arrested and pregnant. And when I wrote that down, arrested and pregnant, it reminded me of something that I could preach. It reminded me of like a TD Jakes conference or something, arrested and pregnant. And so this was my second DUI in a matter of years. And within a couple of weeks, I also found out that I was going to be a dad, that my wife was pregnant. And so my career was now in jeopardy. There was no longer a question of like, what I'm going to do. Is like just a matter of time. And with a child on the way, that time was set. I had 9 months. And so luckily I was able to push out the court thing for that duration of that 9 months. And so 9 months came and went. And that whole time I'm trying to figure out like, what am I going to do? You know what I'm saying? I try applying for jobs similar to what I'm in now, but that just doesn't feel right, because it's like, man, my heart's not going to be in that. So then I started applying for jobs that looked like were more in aligned with what I was doing on the side. And I quickly was working like 18-hour days with these internships along with the job that I was in. But I realized that I couldn't replace my engineering salary with these creative jobs. There just wasn't it wasn't the same. And so 9 months came and went, and now I'm on the way to the hospital with my wife, and my mom is actually driving us, and I'm feeling really juvenile. I'm a dependent when I'm about to have a dependent. The court had taken my license the week before, and so now I was just like, trying to strum up as much courage as I could to do what I knew I would ultimately have to do. And so I told him I'm not going back. Like, after this paternity leave, I'm not going back to work. And my mom was like, "Are you sure that's what you want to do? Like, you're about to have a child. Maybe give it 6 months or something. And so I gave it 6 weeks. I gave it that paternity leave, and that whole time, I'm just trying to gather as much courage and energy as I can, trying to gather all of the faith that I could to say to make this leap. You're going to jump, but I also needed a backup plan, right? So I wrote down on a piece of paper ways money can make. How money I gonna make? That was the question that I needed to answer. And I wrote down on a piece of paper a couple of things that I could do with relative certainty, right? One of those things was substitute teaching, tutoring, and then, of course, the videography and photography that I had been doing. So I made the leap. I took the leap, and took the leap on going to Africa. And it was somewhat of a spiritual experience or transformation or whatever, or symbolic kind of thing. Or, I don't know, but I had to go back to Africa and go through those doors of no return to, regain my own freedom. And that year, that first year after making that leap, I was doing the things I wanted to be doing the year before. Right? I was performing, I was traveling, I was, doing these shoots. I was going all over the place. I was rubbing shoulders with governors and senators, and I was out in the field, But at the end of the day, I was just a guy going around doing stuff. I didn't really have a business. I said I had a business. I was doing business but I didn't have any structure. I didn't have a system to what I was doing. I was just relying on my faith and opportunities to just kind of emerge to carry me along. But after a year of that, I didn't have anything to show for it. All I had was maybe a bunch of videos or something, or but I didn't have any real assets that I could say, okay, this is something I could build on. And so the income was inconsistent. There would be months where, it's feast or famine, they call it, right? Months where I was getting some bread, and then months where there was none. And so at the end of that first year, it was dry. Everything was dry. Lights was cut. Fridge is empty. Now I'm the father of a 1-year-old, and where I was feeling like a dependent the year before, now I'm gonna feel shame. Me just my head is down. You know what I'm saying? I had a website that was supposed to be making money, or I knew it had potential to make money, but it just looked good. It wasn't really doing anything for me. I had drunk all the charge your worth juice until I priced myself out the market. But I knew that there were people. Who were making a living online, and I knew that it was just a matter of mastering whatever skills that I needed to master, and I could be one of them, right? So every webinar, every podcast, every blog post on SEO, on content marketing, on copywriting, on making some type of money, outside of a job on the internet, I was consuming it. And while I was consuming it, I was thinking, man, there's some magic. There's got to be some type of magic to this. I just got to learn the trick, right? There's some hocus pocus going on, especially when there are all of these stories of people making hundreds of thousands of dollars in like a matter of months, and just wild stuff. There's always these wild numbers and stuff like that. And when you're in a state of desperation, you're reaching for them things, because it's like, man, like I said, if it's possible for somebody, it got to be possible for me. But I always suspected that there was more to it. There was something that just wasn't being revealed, or there was something behind the trick, And so while I'm trying to wrap my head around this thing on the internet, my wife goes back to work because, she can't like sit around and wait for me to figure it out. We got a baby to feed. And so she becomes the breadwinner, and I'm now a stay-at-home dad, not making any money. I'm waking up every day depressed. I go to work to pick her up, and I feel like, I feel way less than I ever felt. And it was almost like it was like a worse feeling of like, man, I got to get out of this hole. Because this hole is almost like yeah, you shouldn't have gone that route. You shouldn't have taken that leap, because then you wouldn't be in this hole. And the only person you got to blame or to, is yourself, And so I was really depressed, but I was waking up every day though still with a dream, with a vision. And I wanted to wake up every day and there be more money in my PayPal or more money in my bank account than there was the day before. I wanted to wake up and I wanted the numbers to be going up faster than they could be coming down. And I still didn't know exactly how, but I had consumed enough that I had the basics, right? The basics. So I was talking to a friend one day, and he was like trying to maybe encourage me by like making me think about my accomplishments. And I was just like, man, I don't got no accomplishments. Like I haven't accomplished anything that I've done to this date. Like it hasn't necessarily been on my own accord. Like, and everything that I've tried now on my own accord, like it hasn't amounted to anything yet. But it's just nothing. So he switched up the question on me. It was like, well, if you could do one thing right now, that you enjoy and you can get paid for it, like what would that one thing be? And so I reflected over the past year and a half that I have been freelancing, and I was like, you know what? It would probably be these Squarespace websites. I was like, I like playing around with the platform. I've bundled it up with other projects where I add on a website because I like working on that part of the thing. And so suddenly now, after all this time of just trying to do a lot and trying to charge a lot and trying to, get myself out there or whatever, I had some clarity. And the clarity was something that I had resisted for a while, because I heard that, I needed a niche, or you got to find a niche or start with a niche. And I had heard all of that advice, but it just felt like, well, if I commit to one thing, then aren't I excluding myself from all these other things? Like I got all of this potential or all of this other opportunity that I want to make myself available for. Like, how can I do that if I'm just doing one thing? And so I guess because I had reached a point where nothing was working out, or nothing was going on, it became a much easier decision to make, because now focusing on this one thing allowed me to apply my energy in a more constructive manner, right? And so now I knew where to focus. And so I wasn't just searching the internet for any and anything. Now I was immersing myself in the communities and the online spaces where I knew that my clients would be, or the people who I wanted to work with would be. And so being in them spaces, I started to get familiar with these problems. And a lot of the problems were problems that I had already experienced, but now I was seeing these problems as things that I could solve as well, or things that I actually needed to solve now that I was making this my focus. And so I started systemizing my marketing now. So where once upon a time I was like, I thought freelance marketplaces were something beneath me, I was setting up profiles. I was going through every corner of the web where someone could have needed a Squarespace website or help with a Squarespace website. And I was setting up some type of presence for myself where I could be exposed to the problems that people were dealing with, and so that I could eventually put some processes in my day-to-day where I'm waking up and I have a plan of attack, right? I have a set checklist of things that I need to do to get the ball rolling and start getting some clients. So in a matter of months, I went from nothing to now I'm starting to get some clients. And now, I realize, like, if you focus on anything for 30 days or for 60, 90 days, and you're consistently applying and improving on it every single day a little bit, you get pretty far, and you start to see things that you wouldn't have seen had you just scattered your attention energy. And so now I get this light bulb idea. Now I'm like, okay, maybe I could start an online business around this thing, right? Maybe I could sell Squarespace templates, right? I'm messing with these websites, and I'm seeing how other platforms have templates, and this platform just doesn't really have templates like that. And so maybe that's something that I could do. And so I decided to create a brand around this thing called squarespacethemes.com, SQSP themes.com. And, the goal now is to take that same $10,000 a month, and now this is going to be the sandbox or the experiment to do that with. But obviously I needed some templates. I didn't have any. And I realized that, like, I actually didn't have the skill, or I just wasn't satisfied with anything that I thought I could come up with. It just didn't seem original enough for me. And I couldn't find anyone who was as vested in the idea to design them for me. And there are also some technical limitations as well. And so I had to kind of, quickly pivot, right? Because I didn't necessarily have any money to plan long term. So I quickly pivoted to these tweaks. The idea came, I started the website and I switched it up. I'm like, all right, I'm going to just turn what I've already been doing into the product, at least for now. And so because people more wanted me to customize their website or tweak a few elements, that became the offering. And so this was one of the first iterations. Need a few tweaks, don't have the time, not sure how to do it. Stop fiddling with your site, pulling out your hair, and let's get this thing done. And so once I reached this point, I started to feel a little bit more confident, because now the website was actually working for me. Now I was actually getting prospective clients who were reaching out, and they were reaching out in response to a couple of things. One, the small reputation that I was starting to build, trying to help solve problems in these different online communities. And then also the simplicity of what I was offering. I wasn't offering to build a whole website. I was just offering to tweak a little something. And so I started to build on this, and I got focused on one thing. Got familiar with the problems and created a brand to solve those problems. And that got me out of the freelance slump that I was in, and it got me more in a business mindset. I wasn't fully there yet, but it was more, I was starting to get there. And I was getting there enough where I could retire my wife again, so she didn't have to go to a job that she wasn't necessarily happy about. But I still had no product. So I've got the service that I'm offering, and I'm all right at it. And really the only reason I'm all right at it is because I'm good at searching for stuff. And so I guess I just searched a little bit further than people would search themselves, and that's kind of how I was able to help them. And so I got back into consulting now, because now I had this this experiment that I created, the sandbox, to test out these different marketing strategies and so forth, and it was kind of working. And so I wanted to keep, testing out these things, because ultimately I wanted some results. I wanted something that I could like hang my hat upon. And so I started taking on these different clients, and my wife got pregnant again. And so now, I finally got some results. So one of the clients I was working with, we were able to take her product from just a handful of hand-to-hand sales to online sales, shooting through the roof. And now I'm like, I got something that worked. I just need to apply it. And so really I wanted to just apply it to myself. And so I took a leap again, and I stopped working with that client, because I was like, man, if I could get this far, then I got to be able to do this for myself. And the tweaks that I was doing was really starting to like wear me down, because I didn't necessarily have the skill set. I just had the search set. And remember, I had a client who, it just kept being a back and forth. And I was like, man, I'm going to stop these two sources of income. This is my wife's on her third trimester, about to go into her third trimester. And I'm taking another leap. And I'm like, man, I got to be able to create a product in this time. And maybe I could like help cushion it with some like affiliate income. And I had never made any affiliate income. In fact, I thought most of it was like all kind of scammy and stuff like that. So I was just, turned off of that type of stuff. And so this was a really cold winter, very stressful, because we had no income, and I was like hedging. I had placed all my bets. I placed all my bets on myself. Again, I'm thinking, as if like God would have to respond. That was kind of like my thing. Like, man, God gotta respond. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I put it all on the line, like there has to be some type of reciprocal force gotta kick in. And it wasn't kicking in at all. And so it was stressed out. I tried to get a job again as an engineer. I went to an interview, and I felt like, like I had, like it was done. Like it was over. The gig is up. Ain't no making a living, buddy. And it was crazy. Remember, I went to the welfare office. I don't know what it's really called, but where you sign up for public assistance. And I sat down for the interview with the lady, and my wife is next to me. My son Shiloh's under the table, kind of playing. And I'm like, man, like it's over for me, But guess what? The woman, ultimately everybody wants your story. You sit down, they need your story in order to get to the next level. And my story wasn't really making sense to them. They wasn't really, when I was telling them that, like, I was doing this consulting, that they asked me how I was making money. I said, I was consulting online and stuff like that. They were just looking at me like, okay. Anyway, I didn't get that. I didn't get the job. I didn't get the public assistance. And, fortunately, in the final hour, there was a ram in the thicket. But, I was dealing with constant eviction notices and so on. I got a song about it right here. Y'all can check this out. It's called Pink Slip. Constant eviction notices, and, but finally my daughter's born. Whew. And I think I'm out. The only thing I feel like I got is my story at this point. It's like, man, my story gotta be worth something, but it's not the story that I really want to tell, because it's it's a story of woe and failure and shame and not quite there. So I went back to basics. And so I went back to, what worked for me in the first place, which was getting back focused on one thing, and focusing on a problem. And this time around, I found a partner. So I realized that, my skills is not just up to par in this department, in this code and development thing. So I hired a guy, and he seemed to have the same amount of care that I had for dealing with the clients. He had that with dealing with me, and he was delivering a superior, product to me, in terms of the service. And so after a couple of hiring him for a couple of gigs, I had a case where in a matter of a week or two, I had two different clients who wanted the same exact tweak. And something said to me, maybe this is an opportunity where we could turn this into a product. And so I reached out to the developer and I was like, hey, man, what do you think about turning these tweaks into plugins? And we could split the revenue. And he was just like, I told him, I'm like, I got the marketing side down pack if you just hold down the code and stuff. And he was like, all right, bet. He didn't say, all right, bet, but he said, okay. And now we were in business and I had locked in on a reoccurring problem. And now, I was just paying attention to that. I had something to focus on. And so in a matter of months, we had a bunch of plugins. We productized a solution that we were doing one-to-one, and now we made it available to anybody who could possibly be searching for it. And so because I had been on that search side of the equation and I knew what it was like to be searching for these solutions, I knew what to do on the other side. And so it was rinse and repeat. And finally now I was starting to make a little bit of a passive income. It wasn't really passive because, it was actively working on it, actively supporting. But it was at a time that was really crucial because my daughter was born with a little part of her chromosome missing, in chromosome 7. And so it meant that the first years, it was a lot of hospital visits and seeing different specialists. And so I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was still working under the same kind of a paradigm that I had been before. And so that ability to kind of earn back your time, I didn't necessarily feel the benefits of it immediately, but it did start to offer a sense of like viability, like, okay, maybe this thing is possible, right? So this was the first 6 months of selling the plugins. We started to make roughly around $2,000 a month with it, right? So now every day, I know it's going to be at least $50 in my joint during this period of time. And so I'm still taking on some tweaks, but now I got a partner, so it's kind of offset my deficiencies and where I'm lacking. And so then now I could start to focus even more on growing the marketing side. So 2018, I stopped taking on clients, period. I stopped the service side of my business. And then I started to double down on this digital product side, selling these plugins. And so during that period, we finally crossed that threshold that I had been trying to cross for years. And I realized that the entire time that I was trying to sell my services and try to put a premium on my services, that the reason I wasn't able to do that is because I wasn't really in alignment with that. Like I didn't actually want to be selling my time on my services. I needed some validation, and it seemed like there was a lot of validation in that. I thought that, I could just charge a premium. Like if it's about charging your worth, well, I gotta be worth a lot, and then realizing that, like, yeah, that just wasn't the path that I needed to go down at that. I mean, it's the path I went down, but like ultimately I would have to pull off of that service side and like I had wanted to do, really push in on the product side for the purposes of earning back my time. So now this time I wasn't taking a crazy leap. I was transitioning from one source of income and focusing on another that had already started to grow. I wasn't just jumping off into nothingness like I had done previously. And so the website traffic also started to grow because I had a very simple formula of taking whatever problems I'd run into and either creating a blog post for it on the website or a video for it on YouTube. And over time, people searching for those for answers to those problems would find whatever I created. And so that led to like more traffic and a growth, over those, 24 months, 30 months or so. So now because of this now, I was finally able to leverage that traffic into referral partnerships or affiliate partnerships. But I didn't necessarily like do it deliberately. What happened was one day I logged into an affiliate account for a platform called Shopify, and affiliate means that I get a small commission if someone buys this or pays for this product through me, or the software through me, through my link. And so I opened up this account. I logged in, and there was $444 waiting for me to withdraw. And I had no recollection of where I had placed this link or placing this link anywhere. And so I guess for almost a year or so, traffic had been flowing through that link and people were signing up for this thing. And I was collecting these small commission sums that I didn't know about. And so once I had that experience, and this was about the beginning of 2019, then I suddenly became an affiliate junkie. And what that meant, or what that means, is that I was signing up for affiliate programs left and right, because now I'm like, wow, so this thing actually works. I used to think that this was just such a scam, and that, people with real jobs, like, why would they ever want to do this type of thing? And you wouldn't, but I didn't have a real job anymore. So, realizing that this could be a viable source of income that I could grow on top of the plugin revenue, it kind of just opened up my mind to like, okay, cool. This income is a lot more passive than the other income because I don't have to support it. The plugin income, I have to support that. But the affiliate stuff, it was all passive. And so doubling down on both the product side and the affiliate side of things really ultimately just gave me the time I needed to like just focus on myself moving forward, and focusing on my family, and then reapproach all of what I had already like initiated with an even clearer sense, and more structure and more processes that I still hadn't gained up until this point right here. So, what would I tell my younger self? Let me make this bigger. What would I tell my younger self at the beginning of this journey, knowing what I know now and having gone through this, trying to hit this nebulous goal, and then, passing it and reflecting, is that the thing that you want to work out, it might not work out. But the work that you put in is always going to work out. And so focusing on the work, specifically the work in front of you, right? You've got to use your imagination. You have to visualize. You have to imagine some type of future for yourself that's different than the one you're in now. But at the end of the day, you can only act on what's in front of you. You can't act on that future stuff that you've imagined. I mean, you could write it down, which you should, but you can only act on what's in front of you. And acting on what's in front of you is what's really going to bring you into that future. As long as in acting on what's in front of you, you're continually working to make it more efficient, to improve upon it, to reduce work for yourself, for your future self. Taking those steps and those actions on a daily basis are what's ultimately going to bring you into that next self. And so if I was to extract some maybe business lessons from my younger self, it would be this. Focus on solving problems. A lot of my motivations weren't necessarily solving problems, but like looking good or appearing a certain way. So I was focused on appearances until my own problems became such that I had to pay attention. So focus on solving your own problems as well as, the problems that other people could run into as well. But you can only help people as much as you've been able to help yourself. And so helping yourself by solving your own problems is going to actually give you what you need to help others, which is solutions. So document your solutions. You might say, well, how do I do that or whatever? Like maybe, I don't have a YouTube channel like you have or a website or whatever. For me, it just starts in my journal. And over time, if you document and share and those solutions work for other people, then now you have, now you can become a resource. And when you look at how we think about the planet Earth, right? It has all of the resources that we use as humans. When we embody that type of spirit and energy in business, where we can become a resource of solutions for people with problems, then we open up a flow where now we can turn those solutions into products, and we can make money from those things. Now you might say, well, what if I can't turn those solutions into products? Well, this was the fifth part that really kind of unlocked things for me, which is partnering with people who could do the things that I couldn't do, right? I didn't necessarily have to employ them. I didn't necessarily need to be employed by them or contracted to work for them. I could create mutual terms where the needs that I couldn't satisfy, I could refer them to somebody else and get a small commission out of that. And so as a resource, doing that continually over time, then you can build an asset that, can allow you to make a living. So hopefully you found this useful. My hope is that there's something here that you can extract for yourself. And I would love to know whatever that is, because the way I came up with this was by extracting what I had done previously. So let me know what you find useful, because that will influence the next iteration of this presentation. And thank you for taking this journey with me. I really appreciate your time. Peace.